Imagine a secret buried for 7 decades in the heart of the Scottish Highlands. Buckingham Palace has just dropped a bombshell that has left every member of the British royal family reeling. Lady Louise Windsor, the 22-year-old girl long, known as the quietest and most humble, has been revealed as the sole heir to a mysterious property known as the Grey House. But this isn't just an old house. This was the most private sanctuary of the late Queen Elizabeth II. Imagine this even. King Charles himself was reportedly never allowed to set foot there in his entire life. Inside those walls lies a treasure more valuable than the crown jewels, unpublished personal letters, secret voice recordings from the Queen to her grandchildren, and diaries containing the honest thoughts of Elizabeth without the mask of protocol. However, behind this official announcement, a heated drama is simmering. Long before Louise's name was mentioned, Queen Camilla was reportedly moving under the radar. According to palace insiders, Camilla had already sent survey teams and lawyers to try and seize the Grey House to turn it into a hub for her charitable foundations. She wanted to cement her family's influence, the Parker Bowles legacy, on the land a late queen loved most. But Camilla didn't know that Queen Elizabeth was already one step ahead. The Queen had inserted a secret clause, dubbed Clause 31, which specifically forbade Camilla and her descendants from ever having access to the house. It was a chilling final message from beyond the grave. This place is not for you. Tensions finally boiled over in the corridors of Windsor Castle. Camilla was said to be livid, feeling betrayed by her own husband's family. She even reportedly confronted Princess Anne in a fierce argument that left palace staff trembling, but Anne, with her legendary composure, simply fired back that a sovereign's will is sacrosanct, and even reportedly stung Camilla with a sharp remark, reminding her that Louise is someone who serves with sincerity, not for the sake of a theatrical stage. Support for Louise poured in from unexpected places. Princess Catherine, via her social media, posted a message many took as a direct swipe at Camilla, stating that true legacy is about preserving values, not flaunting power. In the eye of this storm, Louise remains calm. When King Charles offered her the title of princess as recognition of her new position, Louise did the unthinkable. She turned it down. She preferred to remain Lady Louise, the keeper of her grandmother's secrets, rather than being trapped in the power politics of titles. Now, the face of the British monarchy is shifting. On one side, there are those hungry for the spotlight, and on the other, there is Louise holding the keys to the most precious memories of the Queen. Camilla may wear the crown, but it is Louise who holds the heart and the deepest secrets of British royal history. While Camilla was still reeling from the Grey House defeat, the drama took an even more personal turn. Rumors began to swirl that the Queen consort felt the old guard, led by Princess Anne and supported by the Prince and Princess of Wales, had formed a united front to isolate her. The palace walls, which usually keep secrets in, were practically vibrating with the tension of what courtiers called the glass chandelier moment. This was the private confrontation in the Long Gallery at Windsor, where Camilla allegedly accused Anne of using a child, meaning Louise, as a pawn to undermine the Queen consort's public standing. But Princess Anne, famous for her dry wit and lack of patience for theatrics, reportedly delivered a blow that silenced a room. If the spotlight has found her, it's only because the public is looking for the authenticity you're trying to manufacture. But the real shocker came From Prince Edward. Camilla had supposedly reached out to him, asking for a family favor to delay the legal transfer of the estate, citing monarchical unity. Edward's response was a masterclass in fatherly protection. He reportedly told her flatly that his daughter would not be a placeholder for someone else's ambitions. It was the moment the Parker Bowles camp realized the Wessex family wasn't just quiet, they were untouchable. Even Meghan Markle couldn't resist weighing in from across the Atlantic. In a veiled comment during a U.S. broadcast, she spoke about people being elevated for silence, which many took as a direct dig at Louise's sudden rise. But the move backfired. The British public, already enchanted by Louise's refusal of the princess title, rallied behind the young lady within hours. The hashtag Grey House over glamour began trending globally. Inside the Grey House, Louise was already hard at work. Instead of planning a royal gala, she was spotted in muddy boots and a simple jacket, personally cataloging her grandmother's archives alongside former royal librarians. She wasn't just inheriting a house, she was taking over a stewardship of truth. The Quiet Years project she launched with Princess and became the final nail in the coffin for Camilla's own Competi exhibition, which was quietly shuttered. Just days after it opened due to lack of interest, the power dynamic has shifted in a way no one predicted. The king is caught between his loyalty to his wife and the undeniable moral authority his niece now carries, while Camilla focuses on the optics of the crown. Louise is busy protecting the soul of the monarchy. It's a shadow war of legacies. And for the first time in history, the most powerful person in the room is the one who refuses to raise her voice. Narration: the plot thickened when the first whispers of what Louise actually found inside those Grey House archives began to leak. We aren't just talking about old recipes or pressed flowers. Rumor has it Louise discovered a series of black boxes, personal audio recordings made by Queen Elizabeth during the most turbulent years of the 1990s. These tapes are said to contain the Queen's raw, unfiltered reactions to the War of the Wallises, providing a perspective on the Charles-Diana-Camilla triangle that has never been heard by human ears outside the sovereign's inner circle. This discovery sent a shiver through Clarence's house. If Louise holds the tapes, she holds the ultimate veto power over how that era of history is written. Camilla, aware that her carefully reconstructed public image could be dismantled by a single quote from the late Queen's private thoughts, reportedly made one last-ditch effort to intervene. Insiders claim she suggested to King Charles that the archives were nationally sensitive and should be moved to the official royal archives at Windsor for safety. But the king's hands were tied. The legal deed Louise holds is ironclad. In fact, Charles reportedly told Camilla that to interfere would be illegal and moral suicide for the monarchy. This led to a Cold War at the breakfast table, with the king and queen consort barely speaking for days. The tension was so thick that staff reportedly avoided the private quarters entirely. Meanwhile, the Louise effect began to transform the younger generation of royals. Prince William, saying the overwhelming public love for Louise's duty over drama approach, has reportedly been consulting her on how to handle the family's future branding. They were seen huddled in deep conversation at Balmoral, fueling rumors that William sees Louise, not his own stepmother, as the true spiritual guide for the next reign. But the most tea-spilling moment came during a quiet February evening, when a local resident near the estate spotted something extraordinary. A car with blacked-out windows arrived at the Grey House, and out stepped none other than Princess Catherine. She wasn't there for a royal visit. She was there as a friend. Sources say Kate and Louise spent the night going through the letters, with Kate offering her full support to ensure these precious secrets never fall into the hands of those who would use them for PR leverage. As Louise stands on the windswept hills of her new estate, she isn't just a young woman with a house. She's the gatekeeper of the Windsor family's deepest truths. She has become the one person the entire institution is afraid to offend, and the one person the public has decided to trust. The crown might sit on Charles's head, and the title might belong to Camilla, but the moral throne of England now undeniably belongs to Lady Louise. Just when everyone thought the situation couldn't get more intense, the Secret Diaries drama took a turn that left the Parker Bowles camp in a state of absolute panic. Rumors began to leak from the Highlands that Louise had uncovered a specific set of letters dated from the early 2000s, the transition period. These aren't just casual notes. They are allegedly the late Queen's private assessments of the conditions under which the monarchy would survive after her passing. The most scandalous part: a whisper is circulating that the Queen left behind a manual for survival for the next generations, and it reportedly emphasizes the importance of the bloodline staying untainted by commercial ambit. This was seen as a direct, silent swipe at both the Sussexes' Hollywood ventures and Camilla's attempts to bring her own family into the royal fold. Camilla, sensing that her influence was being systematically erased by the ghost of her predecessor, reportedly made a desperate move. She attempted to organize a family summit to discuss the centralization of royal assets. It was a thinly veiled attempt to force Louise to hand over the Grey House keys to a board of trustees that Camilla herself would chair. But the plan crashed before it even started. Prince William reportedly intercepted the memo and blocked the meeting before the king could even see it. Sources say William's message to his stepmother's office was short and devastating. The archives are in safe hands. Let it go. This was the clearest signal yet that the future king has officially picked a side, and it isn't Camilla's. But the real mic drop moment happened during a small local event in Glenmore. A reporter, trying to catch Louise off guard, asked her how she felt about the competition for the Queen's legacy. Louise, with that same piercingly calm gaze as her grandmother, simply replied, "Legacy isn't a competition. It's a quiet promise, and promises aren't kept in the spotlight." The clip went viral instantly. Royal commentators are calling it the death of the PR Queen era. Camilla's elaborate exhibitions and public speeches are now being mocked as performative, compared to Louise's organic authority. Even more shocking are the reports that some of the Queen's oldest and most loyal staff, the men in grey who served Elizabeth II for decades, have started reaching out to Louise, offering to serve at the Grey House for free. The palace is now a house divided. On one side, Clarence House is trying to maintain the status quo. On the other, the Grey House has become the alternative court, a place where the true traditions of Elizabeth II are being kept alive by a 22-year-old girl and her circle of powerful allies. The question isn't whether Louise will join the working royals anymore. The question is whether the working royals can even survive without her seal of approval. Now, the wildest rumors are starting to circulate behind the closed doors of the palace. Word has it that inside the Grey House, Louise discovered a locked box containing correspondence between the late Queen and Prince Philip, labeled for the future of the monarchy. The contents, not just sweet words, but a shadow succession plan that reportedly grants Louise authority as a moral advisor to Prince William for when he eventually ascends the throne. Camilla, feeling her authority as queen consort increasingly eroded, has reportedly begun rallying her old social circles. However, her efforts have been in vain. Even the senior Scottish nobility, who are usually fiercely loyal to the king, are now more frequently seen paying their respects to Louise as she drives through the Highland villages. They no longer see Camilla as the representation of Elizabeth's tradition, they see Louise. Tensions reached a breaking point when another secret leaked. Louise has reportedly held a clandestine meeting with Prince William at a remote hunting lodge. There, they allegedly drafted the Grey House Pact, an agreement that in the future, the Parker Bowles family's role in state events will be drastically reduced. William, who has long harbored old wounds, is said to be in complete agreement with Louise's vision to cleanse the palace's image of personal ambitions deemed damaging. The climax came when an audio recording from the black box found by Louise allegedly captured Queen Elizabeth's voice speaking about the sacrifices of a king's wife. Many speculate the recording contains a warning that a king's wife must never be larger than the crown itself, a stingingly relevant critique of Camilla's recent efforts to push herself into the spotlight. If this recording were ever leaked to the public, the reputation Camilla spent years building could be destroyed overnight. Now, Camilla finds herself in an impossible position. Every step she takes to rival Louise only makes her look more desperate. Meanwhile, Louise remains calm in her cold stone house in Scotland, surrounded by history and truth. She doesn't need a crown on her head to rule. She only needs to stay silent, and the entire palace will hold its breath waiting for her next move. The air at Buckingham Palace has turned chillingly cold, and it's not because of the London winter. The focus has now shifted to the man caught in the middle, King Charles III. Insiders describe the king as a man under siege, torn between the woman he fought decades to marry and the ironclad legacy of the mother he adored. Rumor has it that during a high-stakes dinner at Sandringham, Camilla made an ultimatum. She reportedly demanded that Charles use his royal prerogative to reclassify the Grey House archives as national heritage, which would effectively strip Louise of her control and hand it over to a board of state-appointed trustees. But Charles, visibly shaken, reportedly whispered a response that ended the dinner abruptly. "I cannot fight her ghost, Camilla. She knew us better than we knew ourselves." This ghost that Charles refers to is the growing realization that Queen Elizabeth II didn't just leave Louise a house, she left her a checkmate move. If Charles sides with Camilla, he risks a public rebellion from Prince William and Princess. And if he sides with Louise, his marriage may never recover. The king is now reportedly spending more time in his private gardens, avoiding both the Grey House Pact talk from William and the sharp demands from Camilla's office. But the real drama is what's happening on the ground in Scotland. Louise has reportedly started inviting the displaced, the old, loyal staff members whom Camilla had quietly let go over the last 2 years to come and work at the Grey House. It's becoming a parallel court of loyalists. These are the people who know where all the bodies are buried, and they are now fiercely protective of Lady Louise, adding fuel to the fire. A leaked memo from the royal security detail suggests that Camilla's team tried to gain emergency maintenance access to the Grey House's server room, only to be turned away at the gates by Princess Anne's own hand-picked security team. The message was clear. The Grey House is now a sovereign territory of its own, and the Queen Consort's passkey no longer works. As the public watches this shadow war unfold. The polling numbers are devastating. Camilla's favorability has dipped to an all-time low, while Louise is being hailed as the ethereal queen, the one who holds the power but refuses to touch the throne. The question on everyone's lips in the palace hallways is no longer if a confrontation will happen, but when the contents of that final black box will be used to end this civil war once and for all. Asterisk. The atmosphere within the palace has now entered its most high-stakes chapter yet, a desperate attempt at a ceasefire that ended in utter chaos. Rumors are swirling that Camilla, in her desperation, requested a private one-on-one meeting with Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, Louise's mother. Camilla hoped to persuade Sophie to rein in her daughter for the sake of family unity. However, that meeting at Bagshot Park reportedly turned into the most humiliating moment for the Queen Consort, Sophie, long known as a steadfast ally of the monarchy, reportedly just stared at Camilla calmly and said, "Louise isn't rebelling, Camilla. She is simply carrying out the duties that you view as a burden." Those words reportedly sent Camilla out of the room with a ghost-white face. Sophie had made it crystal clear. The Edinburgh family stands firmly behind Louise, and there will be no negotiations to hand over the Grey House. Meanwhile, details regarding the Grey House Pact have begun to leak to exclusive circles in surmise. The most shocking part of this pact between William and Louise is the plan for the king's upcoming coronation anniversary. Word has it that William and Louise have agreed that documents from the secret archives will be displayed in a limited exhibition, but only those that emphasize the direct bloodline Elizabeth Charles William. This would automatically sideline the Parker Bowles family from the main historical narrative, reducing them to a mere footnote in royal history. Camilla's camp is not staying silent. They have reportedly tried to launch a counterattack through an information war in the tabloids, attempting to paint Louise as a puppet being manipulated by anti-Camilla factions within the palace. However, this strategy backfired. The public has only grown to love Louise more, seeing her as a brave young heroine standing tall to preserve the purity of the Queen's legacy. The climax came when King Charles was reportedly found sitting alone in the library, holding an old photograph of his mother. A staff member claimed to hear the king mutter, "She really did prepare for everything." Charles now realizes that the Grey House isn't just a building. It is a legal instrument designed by his mother to ensure the monarchy remains in the right hands, even if it means sacrificing the peace within his own marriage. Now, the big question hanging in the air is, what will Louise do with the final recording in the black box? Some believe Louise is waiting for the perfect moment to open it, a moment that will determine whether Camilla keeps her front row seat in history or slowly fades into the shadows. The breaking point finally arrived during a cold February evening at Windsor Castle, in a moment that staff are now calling the royal reset. Prince William, tired of the shadow boxing behind palace walls, did something that no one expected. During a high-profile reception for cultural heritage, he didn't just stand by the king. He spent nearly the entire evening huddled with Lady Louise and Princess Anne. The cameras caught a glimpse of a document Louise was holding. It bore the seal of the Grey House Initiative. When a bold reporter asked William about the rumored archives, the Prince of Wales didn't give a scripted palace response. Instead, he smiled and said, "The future of our history is in the safest possible hands. My cousin has a clarity of vision that is truly my grandmother's gift." It was a public endorsement that felt like a lightning bolt. It signaled to the world and to Camilla that the Grey House Pact was no longer just a rumor. It was the new reality. Camilla, standing only a few feet away, was forced to maintain a frozen royal smile, but insiders say the message was received loud and clear. The direct bloodline has closed ranks, and there is no room for outside ambition. But the real mic drop happened just hours later. Rumors exploded that Louise had finally listened to the first few minutes of the final black box, while the full contents remain a guarded secret. A tiny fragment has allegedly leaked through a source close to the Edinburgh household. The recording reportedly features Queen Elizabeth II's voice, steady and unmistakable, saying, "The crown is a relay race, not a solo performance. Those who try to hold the baton for themselves will only find it turns to lead." This leak has sent shockwaves through the Parker Bowles family. It's seen as a direct spiritual warning that has effectively paralyzed Camilla's PR machine. How can you fight a narrative when the most beloved monarch in history is speaking from the past to check you? Every move, the king is now reportedly preparing for a summer retreat to Balmoral, but with a twist. For the first time, he has requested a private meeting at the Grey House not as a king, but as a son. He has asked Louise to show him the letters he was never allowed to see. The power has officially shifted. The quiet lady of the Windsor family has done what no war or scandal could do. She has brought the monarchy back to its roots, leaving those who sought the spotlight standing in the dark. The silence at Balmoral now feels heavier than ever, as King Charles prepares for his private visit to the Grey House. A bitter reality has begun to hit the Parker Bowles family. Tom and Laura, Camilla's children, are reportedly feeling the direct impact of the Grey House Pact. Their plans to secure more prominent roles in public events throughout 2026 have been abruptly canceled without any official explanation. They are realizing that without the blessing of the William-Louise alliance, the palace doors are slowly closing to anyone outside the direct bloodline. However, the real shocker has only just begun. Rumors leaking from trusted staff suggest that the final portion of the black box recording contains specific instructions for Prince William. Queen Elizabeth II reportedly didn't just leave advice, but a moral roadmap in that recording. The Queen allegedly asks William to return the monarchy to its purest form, a service that does not seek personal gain or excessive public validation. This is a devastating blow to the modernization strategy that Camilla's camp has long championed. Louise, as the keeper of these archives, now holds the role of ethical compass for the future king. Word has it that William now calls Louise before making any major decisions regarding the royal fam. Illy's image a position that should, by tradition, have been occupied by the queen consort. Camilla, feeling isolated in her own palace, has reportedly withdrawn from several public engagements, citing exhaustion. But everyone knows the truth behind it. She is avoiding the public gaze, which is now fixated on Lady Louise. The climax came during a closed-door meeting where Charles reportedly told Camilla that he could no longer force her presence at the forefront if it threatened the stability of the legacy. Louise has so sacredly guarded. The British monarchy is now on the brink of a new era. It's no longer about who appears most often on magazine covers, but about who holds the historical truth. Louise has successfully proven that silence does not mean weakness, and that simplicity is the deadliest weapon in palace politics. She has won the war without ever firing a single shot. Leaving Camilla on a throne may be grand, but feels incredibly lonely. The day royal observers had long awaited finally arrived. King Charles III, with minimal security, stepped through the stone gates of the Grey House. It was a deeply emotional moment. The king finally entered his mother's most sacred space, a place that had remained a mystery to him for a lifetime. Reportedly, Louise welcomed her uncle not with rigid protocol, but with a warm cup of tea and an old wooden box placed on the library table. Inside that box were handwritten letters from Queen Elizabeth II specifically for Charles. According to a very limited inner source, the letters contained the Queen's honest reflections on how difficult it was to balance the role of a mother and a sovereign. However, there was one section that reportedly left Charles speechless and shaken. The Queen had written of her fears regarding the future of the monarchy if personal ambition was allowed to dictate the direction of the palace. Charles reportedly spent hours alone in that library when he emerged. His eyes were visibly red. He didn't return to London immediately. Instead, he walked through the hills with Louise. It was there, word has it, that Charles gave his full blessing for Louise to continue running the Grey House initiative as an independent entity that no one, including Camilla, could intervene with. Meanwhile, in California, Meghan Markle was reportedly following these developments with mixed emotions. Sources close to the Sussexes mentioned that Meghan felt stunned watching how Louise managed to gain such massive influence simply by remaining quiet and staying within the system. Meghan, who had built her narrative through major interviews and docuseries, now realized that Louise had won the royal branding game using the most traditional yet effective method. Louise's power of silence made her appear more authoritative and mysterious, something the transparent American-style approach failed to achieve. Now, the power map of the palace has completely shifted. King Charles returned to London with a new perspective, and reportedly, he has begun drastically slimming down the guest list for private royal events. The Parker Bowles family now finds themselves truly outside the inner circle. Louise, the keeper of secrets, has successfully reunited the late Queen's vision with Prince William's future. Under the cold Scottish sky, a new era has been born, an era where quiet truth holds more power than forced grandeur. The collapse of Camilla's strategy is now nearly complete. Reportedly, upon King Charles's return from Scotland, the atmosphere at Clarence House turned icy. The Queen consort realized that her husband was no longer the same man. Charles was no longer asking for her opinion on family matters. Instead, he spent most of his time in his study, staring at the letters brought back from the Grey House. Camilla's final reaction, according to inner sources, was a rare and explosive outburst of emotion. She reportedly felt that her devotion over the last 2 decades was being erased by just a few letters from the past. However, instead of fighting back, Camilla is now said to be taking a drastic step back, a survival tactic to save what remains of her reputation before Louise opens the next chapter. And that next chapter is the limited publication Louise. With the help of a team of senior archivists loyal to the late Queen, has begun compiling a historical volume titled The Quiet Years. This isn't a gossip book. It's a collection of official and private correspondence that will explain the most controversial policies of the Elizabeth II era. The impact will be massive. Word has it that this publication will set the record straight regarding the roles of several royal family members, including how the late Queen truly viewed the transition of power. While the public has only ever heard the official version. From Palace Communications, Louise is set to present the authentic version from the perspective of the sovereign herself. This move will automatically establish Louise as the most influential historian in the world and the final fortress for the dignity of the House of Windsor. Prince William has reportedly given final approval for this publication to be launched. To coincide with the upcoming anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's passing, it's a signal that in the future, the royal narrative will no longer be built by expensive PR consultants, but by the truths stored in Scotland. That Louise is no longer just a young lady who enjoys carriage driving. She has become the new center of gravity for the monarchy. Under her guidance, the Grey House has transformed from a secret home into a powerhouse of intellectual strength, ensuring that Elizabeth II's legacy remains pure, untouched by drama, and forever protected from the ambitions of those who chase the throne without a soul. Narration: the weight of the world has now shifted onto Lady Louise's shoulders. At just 22 years old, she is no longer just another member of the royal family. She has become the power behind the throne. Reports suggest that Louise is now facing increasingly sophisticated infiltration attempts. Some sources claim there have been efforts by external parties allegedly collaborating with old factions loyal to Camilla to hack the private servers of the Grey House initiative. However, they underestimated the defenses she had prepared. Louise, who has developed a deep interest in data security and history, has reportedly been working with British intelligence to ensure that the Quiet Years archives remain secure. She has even implemented a physical check system where every document can only be accessed in the presence of 2 witnesses from the direct bloodline. This proves that Louise is not just a sweet country girl, but a highly intelligent palace operator. Vague leaks regarding the most anticipated details of the Quiet Years are starting to emerge. One of the most crucial sections is allegedly Queen Elizabeth's private notes on the integrity crisis of the early 2000s. In those notes, the Queen reportedly wrote that she never fully agreed with the aggressive rebranding strategies used by media consultants to polish the reputations of those around Charles. The Queen believed more in the power of time and dignity than in public manipulation. If this is published, the entire foundation of the reputation Camilla built over the last 2 decades could be seen by history as a charade. Meanwhile, Prince William has reportedly begun integrating Louise into strategic meetings regarding the future of the Commonwealth. William realizes that Louise possesses a very rare quality. She does not thirst for power. And that is exactly what makes her the most powerful. Louise is now frequently seen accompanying William and Catherine at highly private events, giving the impression that they are the new 3 pillars guarding the future of the monarchy. In London, Camilla has reportedly begun to accept the reality that her time as the chief architect of the royal narrative has ended. She is now spending more time at Ray Mill House, her private home, far from the palace bustle. She realizes that to fight Louise is to fight the will of Queen Elizabeth speaking from beyond the grave. Louise now stands at the forefront of history. She is no longer a hesitant teenager. She is the gatekeeper of the Windsor truth. With the quiet years ready for launch, the world will soon see that the heaviest crown is not the one made of gold, but the one made of the responsibility to guard an undeniable truth. The final showdown isn't happening in a courtroom or a throne room, it's happening in the digital trenches. As the release of the Quiet Years draws closer, a wave of coordinated attacks has hit social media aimed at discrediting Lady Louise. Anonymous accounts, allegedly linked to Camilla's old PR allies, have begun spreading a narrative that Louise is hoarding history and acting as a shadow censor for the monarchy. They're trying to paint her as an elitist gatekeeper who is keeping the public in the dark, but Louise, proving once again she's her grandmother's granddaughter, didn't respond with a press release. Instead, she used the Grey House Initiative Instagram account to post a single, high-definition scan of a handwritten note from 1953. It was a note from Queen Elizabeth II about the importance of silence as a form of service. The caption was just one word: integrity. The post went viral, garnering 5 million likes in 2 hours, completely drowning out the negative hashtags. It was a digital masterclass in don't complain, don't explain. While the social media war raged, the moral roadmap left for William was finally decrypted by Louise and shared with the Prince of Wales. This document is rumored to be the true holy grail of the Windsor family. In it, the late Queen allegedly outlined a plan for a slimmed-down monarchy that effectively excludes non-bloodline spouses from having any constitutional say in the family's private wealth and archy. Val legacy. It's a legal steel cage designed to ensure that the Parker Bowles influence ends with this reign. Prince William's reaction was reportedly one of profound relief. Sources say he told Louise, "She gave us the shield we didn't know we needed." William has now started incorporating the roadmap into his own transition planning. This has created a visible rift at state functions. At a recent diplomatic reception, William and Louise were seen in a huddle, while Camilla stood at the opposite end of the room, surrounded only by her own staff. The three pillars, William, Catherine, and Louise, are now the undeniable center of gravity. The final blow to the old guard came when King Charles himself requested that a small desk be set up for Louis. Say inside Buckingham Palace, not in the communications office, but in the private library. It's a signal that the king has surrendered to his mother's plan. He has accepted that Louise is the moral guardian of the house. As the world waits for the first volume of The Quiet Years, the Parker Bowles camp is reportedly in controlled retreat. There are whispers that Camilla's children are looking into private ventures far away from the UK, sensing that the royal door has been bolted shut from the inside. Lady Louise Windsor has done the impossible. She has used a 70-year-old secret to secure the next century of the monarchy. The quiet lady has spoken, and her voice is the only one that matters now. Narration. The world passed as the first chapter of The Quiet Years finally leaked to the press, and it was no accident. Many suspect that Louise deliberately allowed this small fragment to slip out as a final warning shot. The fragment contained a chapter titled The Prodigal Son and the Price of Silence, featuring a specific message from Queen Elizabeth II to her grandson, Prince Harry. The contents of That message were heartbreaking yet firm. The Queen reportedly wrote that the doors to her home would always be open for Harry the grandson, but the doors to the monarchy were locked tight for Harry the businessman in this document. The late Queen legally separated familial affection from institutional obligation. This revelation effectively shattered the Sussexes' hopes for any future half-out negotiations. By releasing this, Louise has single-handedly ended the long-running debate that has burdened William for years. The global reaction has been nothing short of extraordinary in London. Pre-order queues at bookstores have reached record highs. Louise is now hailed as the great truth-teller, the figure who cleared the fog of drama surrounding the House of Windsor. However, for Camilla's loyalists, this is the death knell. With this publication, the narrative that Camilla was King Charles's savior has collapsed, replaced by the fact that her presence was always viewed with caution by the previous sovereign. The climax occurred at the palace itself. Reportedly, a moving truck was spotted at the side gate of Clarence House, although the palace dismissed it as routine procedure. Rumors are rampant that Camilla has begun permanently moving her personal belongings to Raymell House. She realizes that under Louise's oversight and William's moral roadmap, her role will be minimized to mere ceremony, stripped of any real power. Louise now stands on the balcony of Windsor Castle, looking toward the Grey House in Scotland. She has completed the task her grandmother entrusted to her. She didn't just keep secrets. She used those secrets to save the monarchy from internal collapse in Louise's hands. History is no longer a weapon to hurt, but a mirror for reflection and repair. The future of Windsor is now clean, calm, and for the first time in decades incredibly secure. The aftermath of the Harry warning leak was swift and surgical. In Montecito, the silence was deafening, the narrative of being pushed out by a cold institution was effectively dismantled by the late Queen's own words of grandmotherly love mixed with ironclad constitutional boundaries. But while the world was distracted by the Sussex drama, Louise was busy completing the transformation of the Grey House. By March 2026, the property had become the most exclusive and feared location in Europe. Louise officially closed the gates to all non-essential personnel, including senior palace courtiers who didn't carry the bloodline clearance. It became a sovereign vault, a place where the truth lives, and where only those fit to lead are allowed to enter. Rumors surfaced that Prince William had the first official Grey House summit with Louise, where they finalized the Windsor 2030 plan. This plan, inspired by the Queen's final recordings, focuses on a total return to duty over celebrity. The most shocking part of this new era? The Parker Bowles family has been completely omitted from the 2030 projections. King Charles, now seeing the immense peace and stability Louise has brought to the monarchy, has reportedly signed an order in council that grants the Grey House permanent diplomatic immunity. It is now, for all intents and purposes, an independent territory within the UK, a palace of truth that no politician or queen consort can ever touch. As for Camilla, the moving truck incident was just the beginning. She is now seen as a figure of the past. At the most recent state opening of Parliament, she walked several paces behind the king, a visual representation of her diminished influence. The public's gaze wasn't on her crown. It was on the small, silver Grey House brooch pin to Lady Louise's lapel. Louise has done what no one thought possible. She turned a collection of old diaries into a modern-day fortress. She has ensured that the monarchy doesn't just survive, it remains authentic. As the sun sets over the Highlands, the lights in the library of the Grey House stay on. Louise is still reading, still recording, and still guarding the soul of the Windsor legacy. The quiet lady has become the eternal sentinel. Asterisk narration: the final piece of the puzzle fell into place during a private ceremony at the small chapel in Windsor. It was here that Prince William, Princess Catherine, and Lady Louise reportedly formalized the Pact of the Three Pillars. This secret agreement, witnessed only by the spirit of the late Queen's archives, defines the architecture of the next reign. William will lead as the voice of the nation. Catherine will serve as the heart of the people, and Louise, in a role never before seen in royal history, will act as the guardian of the legacy. This pact ensures that even when William ascends the throne, the Grey House remains the ultimate authority on royal ethics and historical truth, completely independent of the inevitable political pressures of the day. But it was the discovery of the very last entry in Queen Elizabeth II's personal diary that brought the entire journey to its emotional conclusion. Louise, sitting alone in the library of the Grey House, found a small envelope tucked into the back cover of the 2022 journal. On it was written, "For the one who stayed," the whispered final sentence of that entry, which has now become part of the Windsor family's oral legend, reportedly read, "The crown is not found in the gold, but in the courage to remain when everyone else has walked away." As 2026 unfolds, the transformation is total. The Parker Bowles era of influence has faded into a quiet, ceremonial background. Prince Harry's path back is clear but strictly personal. Devoid of the titles and deals he once sought, the monarchy has been slimmed down not just in numbers, but in spirit, becoming leaner, more focused, and entirely directed by the blueprints Louise recovered from the shadows. The Grey House stands silent once more against the Scottish mist. Its mission is complete. The secrets have been filtered, the pretenders have been sidelined, and the direct line of the Windsors is stronger than it has been in a century. Lady Louise Windsor, the quiet girl who loved horses and history, has successfully steered the ship of state through its most treacherous storm. She remains the eternal sentinel, the keeper of the truth, and the woman who saved the British throne by simply knowing when to speak and when to keep the world's most powerful secrets safe. The first official act of Lady Louise Windsor as the sovereign guardian sent a clear message across the globe. The era of royal branding is over, and the era of royal substance has begun. Instead of a grand gala or a televised interview, Louise's first move was the official declassification of the St. George's Protocol. This document, pulled from the depths of the Grey House archives, dictates that any member of the royal family who seeks to monetize their title or sell the private history of the Windsors effectively forfeits their place in the royal line of succession and all associated trust funds. It was a legal guillotine that permanently severed the link between royal service and commercial gain. But the most significant moment occurred behind closed doors. For the first time, King Charles III officially handed over the Queen's master key, a physical and symbolic key to the most sensitive vaults in the Tower of London and Windsor, to Louise. In doing so, he acknowledged that while he wears the crown, Louise holds the integrity of the crown. Camilla has now almost entirely retreated from public view, spending her days in the quiet countryside, her influence a mere whisper compared to the thunderous silence of the Grey House. Prince William, meanwhile, has been seen with a newfound confidence, knowing that his path to the throne has been cleared of the gray shadows that once haunted his father's reign. The new royal hierarchy is now firmly established: the king, the reigning sovereign; the Prince and Princess of Wales, the active face of the future; the sovereign guardian Louise, the invisible foundation of truth and law. The story of the Grey House ends not with a bang, but with a settled peace. The archives are locked, the pact is signed, and the legacy of Elizabeth II is finally secure. Louise has proven that you don't need a crown to be a queen of history. You only need the courage to protect the truth. As the final chapter of this saga closes, the mist over the Scottish Highlands seems to lift, revealing a monarchy that has been fundamentally redefined. The story of the Grey House ends with a legacy that is no longer hidden in shadows, but serves as the bedrock for a new century. The final settlement of the Grey House. Lady Louise's ultimate role. Louise has officially transitioned from a secret keeper to the High Archivist of the realm. She now resides primarily at Windsor, but the Grey House in Scotland remains her private headquarters. She is the only person, aside from the King and the Prince of Wales, who possesses the sovereign override code for the royal archives. The Parker Bowles legacy. Camilla has moved into a dour queen style of existence, respected in name, but entirely removed from the machinery of state. Her children, Tom and Laura, have returned to their private lives, their brief flirtation with royal influence now a closed chapter in a book Louise has archived. The Sussex resolution. Prince Harry and his family have been granted a personal peace. The archives revealed that while they are excluded from the institution, they are protected by a private trust that ensures their safety, provided they adhere to the silence pact Louise established. The Three Pillars era. William, Catherine, and Louise have become a singular unit. The public no longer sees the monarchy as a one-man show, but as a balanced triangle of leadership, heart, and integrity. The last words of the Sentinel in the final pages of the Grey House ledger. Louise reportedly wrote a single concluding entry: "A crown is only as heavy as the secrets it tries to hide. By bringing the truth into the light, we have made the burden light enough for the future to carry." The gates of the Grey House are now locked to the curious, but for those who look toward the horizon of the British monarchy, the light in the library window remains a signal that the truth is being watched over, and that the quiet lady has ensured the Windsors will never lose their way again. With the Grey House saga settled, the year 2026 enters a period of unprecedented royal stability. However, the world's attention has now shifted to the Sentinel Protocol, Louise's first long-term strategic project. She has realized that protecting the past was only half the battle. She must now protect the future from the digital age's ability to distort the truth. In a move that stunned the tech world, Louise authorized the creation of the Windsor Digital Ledger. Utilizing high-security blockchain technology, every official royal decree, historical letter, and state photograph is now minted as an immutable record. This means that no fake news, AI-generated scandals, or altered history can ever again threaten the credibility of the crown. The story ends on a quiet evening at Balmoral. Prince William and Lady Louise are seen walking near the edge of the woods. William turns to her and asks, "Do you think she'd be proud of how we used the Grey House?" Louise smiles, looking back at the stone structure that holds the weight of centuries, she reaches into her pocket and touches the silver sentinel key. She didn't leave the house for us to hide in, William. She left it so we could finally step out of the shadows. The screen fades to black as the royal standard flies high over the gray house, not as a symbol of secrets, but as a beacon of an unbreakable truth. And with that, the gates of the gray house are officially closed to those who pursue only ambition, but wide open to honest history. Lady Louise has proven that the greatest power doesn't always come from a glittering crown, but from truths kept in silence. Is this the end of the world, or the beginning of a new, more sacred era for Windsor? Only time and Louise will tell. Thank you for following the saga of the Grey House with us. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter of Secrets from Behind the Castle Walls. Will take my leave. See you in the next mystery.